One of our guys made the news, and probably not, certainly not in a positive sense, but there's a lot of moving parts, and as we record this week, we don't know the outcome. But let's talk about Stewart.
Isaiah Stewart. So in the moment as you're watching this sort of game, I don't know about you, Duffy, as I'm watching this, obviously Stewart plays with a lot of passion, love the kid, but he gets hit in the eye. Now, in the moment of that time frame, I know a lot of people will say, well, why didn't you do something with LeBron then? Well, he couldn't see. First point. Second of all, then you don't notice that you're bleeding until you're bleeding. But I don't think like LeBron James did it on purpose. I know they're going to have all these extra videos of showing his slowing down.
You mean hit him in the face on purpose?
No, okay. Hit him in the face on purpose. I know he wanted him off of him so he could get the rebound, but I don't think he did it to the point of where I wanted to make sure that I showed this kid where I stand. That being said, the moments after that, LeBron has his hands up, doesn't seem to want to have that confrontation. Stewart comes over, and then it goes left very quickly. I don't know what the suspensions will be. I think there will be suspensions. I also think they'll be appealed. And I also am interested in the Sunday night game between the Lakers and the Pistons in Los Angeles, just to see who shows up and who doesn't.
Also, the background, Isaiah Stewart had played a little bit at McQuaid before he went to prep school and then wound up in college at Washington and was a top round pick. So he's a very high profile guy. He's got definitely local connections and everything. People are going to know at least who he is now.
Look, I think this is great for him. Look, it's not great that he got bloodied up and he takes a punch to the face. And if you watch basketball, if you've watched basketball, I mean, you guys know this is not a bad thing for the sport. And here's the thing. I mean, the NBA the last couple of years. Wait a minute. You as a Celtics fan?
No, but if it's a bad thing, it's not a good thing for the sport. It's either good or bad.
No, I disagree with you because, look, there's been complaints from folks that don't watch the NBA. Well, it's not as gritty as it used to be. They don't play defense anymore. No one wants to get, down and do dirty things. Look, what Stewart did looked bad on television, but he plays a gritty game. He likes getting in and getting physical. I mean, the kid's a monster, right? This is a side effect of that thing happening. I don't think he came off looking bad. He's got blood pouring down his face. I understand that he wants that confrontation. I probably would have done the same thing. And people now know who he is, right? Look, he could be the best forward in Detroit. No one would know who he is. He's playing great basketball. People are talking about him now because LeBron James was scared to go near him after he punched him in the face.
Well, he didn't want it. I'll say that about LeBron. I'm a big fan of his, but he didn't want any part of that moment. And I think the emotion of the moment sort of took over in that time frame. I think you look back on it. I don't know how Stewart feels about it now. I don't know how he feels about it when this airs. I don't know what's going to happen. I will say this about this. I think he plays hard. He played hard. He didn't expect that from LeBron. LeBron, I don't think is a dirty player either. So this is kind of one of those situations where I'm not quite sure where I come out on this as of yet. Hopefully this won't lead to anything. But NBA games in the 80s and 90s were way worse than this. So this is not the malice in the palace. And it's not that big of a deal.
So I think it's a microcosm too of privilege and justice. When whatever comes down is what they do to Stewart versus what they do to James in terms of punishing them.
And here's the thing, like they're going to have the ability to be like, well, James was trying to avoid the conflict and Stewart was the one initiating it. However, I mean, if you watch the whole thing, you understand why he's heated. You're right. Stewart's going to get the worst end out of this. He makes less money. The fine's going to hurt him more. However, I am curious because I kind of felt weird as I was watching this on Sunday night. Did anyone else have a little civic pride? And I like LeBron too. Hoping that he would get a hold of LeBron and that's what Rochester does. We're going to beat up one of the most famous people on the planet right now. How about
I didn't want to see that particular thing, but I thought, you know what? There he is, and all right.
No, I don't want to see that happen.
I'm kind of pleased to see him.
But I will say this. There was a point where, and somebody brought this up on the show on DKX, there was a point where LeBron James came as a youth to Rochester to play in a preseason game and did not play that game. He skipped those two preseason games. A lot of people in Rochester are still holding on to that chip.
It was worse than that.
Yeah, it was. And did not appreciate the fact that he was healthy, but did not play in that preseason game. And so they were kind of looking for what Duffy was saying, although I would have not wanted to see that.
I was at that game. He got up, walked to the scorer's table like he was coming in, and then sat down and laughed about it.
True, he did.
Isaiah Stewart, 10 years later, getting us justice.
Remember, those kids were kids at the time. He was young, immature for LeBron. I think he would admit that now. I think Stewart, same sort of thing. Remember, he's not an NBA veteran. He's a young man.